All right, guys. So this is Imran, and we're going to talk about using AJAX in WordPress. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a page on WordPress, and on that page we're going to create a register form. Okay. And obviously, if we want to register someone, we need to use the PHP and everything to register that person. And we have to do that when the user clicks on register button when the page refreshes. But here we are going to ensure that when the user clicks on register button, the page does not get refresh and the user gets registered as well. Okay, and as we all know that this is definitely possible with AJAX, right, which is asynchronous JavaScript and XML. All right. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing we need to do is we need to create that page template. Okay, and to create that page template, we're going to come to page template and we're going to create a file which will be called um, login page. Okay, so we'll create a file in page template directory of themes. Okay, that's login form dot php. Okay, so you've got that. In fact, we'll just copy the template, any of the templates code into this file. Okay, and we'll just delete the inside part of it. Okay, so we have the header, we have got the footer, and we just got the students over here, just to get a similar page as we have for the other templates. Okay, and over here the template name, we'll name it as register form. Remember, whatever name you're going to give it over here as template name, the same name will be available when we try to create a page over here under this section. As you can see, you've got this template available over here in the name of register form. Okay, so whenever you create a page and you select the template, the name of that template will be available uh, as soon as you define the template name as whatever name you give over here will be the same name available here. Okay, so you've created this file which is loginform.php, and this is the file where we're going to write the code for input for username, password, and email, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a page which is called register form. You can keep the name as register form, that should be okay. All right, and we're going to select the template as what we have defined on this loginform.php, and we'll go ahead and publish it. Okay, and we can go onto this page using this permalink. Okay, so as you can see right now we don't have anything because obviously we've not coded anything over here. Okay, so let's start coding. Okay, so to make this video short, I've already written what's supposed to be there, so I'm just going to copy paste that. So all I've done is I've just created a form, a register form with an ID of register form, and then I have three inputs. The first is the username with the ID of IHS. In fact, I will take off the name itself because we don't need the name. Since we are not doing it through PHP, we are doing it through AJAX. Okay, so we don't need the name. Cool. So we've got three inputs. One is the username with the ID of IHS. IHS is basically the prefix. Login username, user email, and password. Okay, so we've got these three inputs. We've got a register button, okay, register input, okay, and we've got this form. So on this page, all we have is just this form HTML. That's all we have, okay, on loginform.php. And if we now go ahead and refresh our page, we can see that we've got our username, user email, password, register, and all of that. Okay, cool. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create functions file. Okay, and we'll keep our functions file in includes folder, and we're going to name our functions file as IHS functions.php. Okay, and we're going to put that in the include folder. Okay, so here we go. We've got this file over here. Okay, now definitely because we have created this functions.php file, WordPress is not going to automatically include that. We have to include ourselves. So whenever we want to load any scripts, any style sheets, JavaScript files, whatever functions we want to write, we need to write in functions.php because functions.php loads first. If we don't write our functions in functions.php, if we write it somewhere, like in loginform.php or somewhere here and there, then things may not work that they're supposed to, in a way that they're supposed to, because it might be looking for that function and that function might not be available because functions.php loads first, so that all the functions that have been defined inside that file are available to the other file. So it is extremely important that whatever functions you're going to write, ensure you write it in functions.php. Okay, so you may know where functions.php is. So here is our functions.php file. We've got all the functions written here. So obviously we don't want to make this file dirty, so we're going to create our own functions.php file, which we've done it already, which is IHS functions.php, and we're going to include this file into the main functions.php file of our WordPress. Okay, so I've already done that, so I'm just going to uncomment this line. Okay, so require once pavan dr is basically a constant, so this will give me the path up until this theme pavan light directory. Okay, and then it will take me to the includes folder, and then it will go to the IHS functions.php. Okay, so basically we are including this this file functions.php into the main functions.php file of the WordPress. Okay, so now we can close this because we've already included this file. Okay, so just a quick recap. What we've done is we have created a template, okay, which is called loginform.php. We have created a form. Inside that page, which is this, we have created a page and we have selected the register form template, and that's how we've been able to come onto this page. Okay, and then we have created this IHS functions.php file, and we have included that in the main functions.php file. Okay, so I hope you're pretty much clear so far. Okay, and we can proceed further. Thank you. Cool. So next, so we're going to write some codes. So to save time, I've already written those codes. All I'm going to do is just copy those codes here. Okay. Cool. Right. So what are we doing over here? So let me explain to you starting from here. Okay. So functions. What we've done is we want to also go ahead and create a JavaScript file, which we will do. Okay. So let's create a JavaScript file as well. And as we know, we include all the JavaScript files into our JS folder. So let's create a JavaScript file, and we'll name it as IHS, which is a prefix for that file so that it doesn't clash with other files. JavaScript.js. Okay, so we create this file. So obviously we want to include this file, and as we have discussed that we're going to include the code that we write to include the files are always done in functions.php. So we have defined a function called IHS Frontend scripts, and we all know that we use wp-enqueue script function to include any scripts. So we put the name as hook, imran_js. This is the name of the hook. Get template directory URI gives us the path up until the theme. that we have till pound light, and then we have JS, which is here, and then we have just JavaScript. So we've got this included. The dependency is jQuery, so this will ensure jQuery file loads before this automatically. And in footer true means that this file, JavaScript file, will be included just right before where the body ends. Then we have something interesting here, which is called WP localized script. Okay, in order for our AJAX to function, because we're going to use AJAX to send the data to PHP file, we would need the URL of admin-ajax.php file. This file basically is created by Wordpress, and any AJAX request that we make goes through this file, and I'll explain to you in a moment why. But let me just explain to you what this function does. So this function basically goes ahead and creates an object. We can name our object over here to any name that we like. So I have named it as myvar. Okay, and this object will go ahead and have these properties. So the moment you define this WP localized script function with the same name, same hook name or handle name as what we have defined in WP enqueue script, is going to ensure it's going to create an object, and whatever values you pass inside this array, it's going to assign these as a property and value pair to this object. So this function basically will create an object called myvar, which will have a property name as AJAX URL and property value as the URL of admin-ajax file. Okay, and it's going to ensure that this object variable is going to be available before this file loads. That's the job of this WP localized script. And as we all know that once we call this add action hook with WP enqueue scripts, this function is called. So basically this function is called, and this JavaScript file is included, and this creates a myvar variable which has the link of the admin ajax file, which will be available to this file right here. Okay, cool. Now let me explain to you what this file does. Basically, I've explained that in my other videos, but I'll explain it once again. So if you go to WP admin, there is a file, the same file name, admin ajax. Okay, so this is basically all the ajax work is going on here. We're not going to worry about everything. We'll just scroll it down to the bottom where it says is user logged in function. So the job of this function is that it's going to define do action hook. Okay, and the only difference in these two is that if the user is logged in, then the prefix for that hook will start from WP underscore ajax, and if the user is not logged in, then this will be the prefix. Okay, and this is quite interesting. They haven't just named the hook statically, they have done it dynamically, because in this situation, this super global $_request, the value inside this will not be available until unless an AJAX request is made. Okay, so only when an AJAX request is made will the value of this will be available, and only then this do action hook will will function. Okay, so that is the reason why we are wanting the URL of admin-ajax, because without the URL of this file, we won't really be able to run our AJAX, and in turn we can't go ahead and make this function work. So do action basically is going to ensure once this function starts working, then that means that the add action that we've done over here, which is WP ajax myAjax hook, this will work, because if you notice, this prefix is the same over here. So we're not interested in this. We're only going to talk about when user is logged in. Okay, this is half part of it. So whenever you define any AJAX request add action, you have to define the prefix, and then this part you can choose anything that you like, but make sure that this part, whenever you call in the AJAX request, needs to be there inside that JavaScript file. Okay, this will make sense to you in a moment. Right now it might sound a little bit confusing, but don't worry, just be with me. Okay, I promise you'll be able to understand it by the end of this video. Okay, so this is add action, which is attached to this do action hook. Okay, and once the AJAX request is made, which means the value inside of this will be available, and the value of this will be nothing but this part. Okay, so this will be complete, which means to action will be called, which in turn will call this, which in turn will call do something. Okay, I'll explain in a bit what we've done, what we're doing inside this do something function, but for now just understand that once the AJAX request is made, do action function will be called, and which will call this add action, and finally do something will be called. Okay, so far just to give you a recap, just to sum it up, what we're doing over here is in this file ihsfunctions.php, we are including the JavaScript file. We are making the myvar object available to JavaScript file, which will have the URL of the admin ajax.php. Okay, now let's go to IHS JavaScript. So again, I have written the codes already to save time. Cool. So this is a self executing function with passing jQuery inside that, so that jQuery is available to this function. Then we have created a function called register. The first thing we are doing is that we are getting the values of the input that the user enters in these fields. Okay, so this is nothing but document get element by ID. So if you check, so this is basically this input right here. Okay, so this is going to catch hold of this element, and then dot value, which means whatever user has entered over here will be the value of username. So similarly, user email will have the email of the user, whatever he enters over here, and same way you have user password, which will have the value of the user password whenever he enters. Okay, right, let's get rid of this. Okay, now what we're doing, I'll explain this part in a bit. Oh, okay, let me explain it anyways. Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is basically the AJAX request function. We all know we've got $.post function. I could have just called this function like this, but it just makes it easier, to assign it to a variable, because then we don't have to do $.post, $.done, and $.fail. If we assign this whole thing, like this whole part, to a variable, then it's just easy for me to say request.done rather than saying $.post and the whole thing .done. Okay, so we are assigning this function to a variable called request, and then we're going to call other functions using this variable as well. Okay, so this AJAX function basically okay, let me just drink some water. So basically this function, first it has the URL, and as we know that this myvar object will be available to us by this function, okay, myvar, and we can access its property, which is myvar.ajax URL will be equal to the URL of this file, and that's what we're doing over here. Myvar, which is object.ajax URL, which is the property, so this will have the value of the URL of admin-ajax.php. Okay, so we're going to pass the URL, then we're going to use the data property and action. This is extremely important to define action, because if we don't define action, we're not, admin Ajax is not going to get this action value over here. So it's extremely important that in our JavaScript file we define action. Okay, so action will be equal to my Ajax hook, and this half part is actually the same in our hook, this part. Okay, right? So if you combine this, so wp underscore ajax, and you combine this half part, so this plus this will make this do action complete, and that's when this do action will start working. Okay, and that's when our add action will work, and that's when the do something will be called. Okay, cool. Okay, let's all right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and ensure that we're going to pass this action so that the admin-ajax file gets this value. Okay, once that is done, then we also define our username. Okay, which we'll pass this data, because remember, we want to send the value of these inputs, these three inputs, to the PHP file, which is the functions.php, as function.php, because we need to insert this value into our database. Only then we'll be able to register this user. Okay, so to do that, we have to pass this data via AJAX. Okay, so that's why we're going to send these values. Remember, username, user email will have the input entered by the user, and that's what we're passing over here. So this this is something you can define as whatever name you want, and once you do that, these values will be available to functions.php. Okay, all right, just 1 second. Cool. Okay. So this whole data is going to be sent to this file, which is ihsfunctions.php. Okay, and then we're going to use this data into this function. Okay, so basically this data, which is action, username, user email, user password, all of this data will be available under $_post. Why? Because we are using a ajax.post. If we were using ajax.get over here, then the data would have been available in the PHP file under $_get. But because we are using the post method of ajax, okay, which is jQuery.post, which is why all the data that we are sending, that's why this is called data, all the data, action, username, value of the user, email, password, everything is going to be available under $_post. And I'm going to show that in a moment that it is actually happening. Okay. Cool. And also there is some response that is going to be sent by this PHP file as well. So the job of this AJAX function is to send all of this data to our PHP file, to this function, and the job of this function, wp send JSON success, is to let our AJAX file know, JavaScript file know that whether it's been successful or not. Okay, so that's why we just outputting anything. We could just write anything over here, hello world, hello test, anything like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and show you that how it's functioning. Okay. So I'm just gonna type fun at gmail.com. fun. Now before we submit it, okay, I'm going to explain to you that in our JavaScript file there are a few more things that we're doing. Okay, what we're doing over here is that once this AJAX request is done, then just console log saying that it's done. Okay, so there will be a response that will be sent, and we'll use that response to show over here that it's done. If it fails, then obviously we would need the error to be displayed. So in the response variable, we will have the error, whatever error comes in. Okay, and finally over here, we are stopping the form default action, because we don't want the form to be submitted once the user clicks, because remember we are using AJAX, so we don't want the page to be refreshed. If we don't do this, if we don't stop the the default nature of this form, then the form will be submitted and the page will be refreshed, and we don't want to do that. So in order for us to stop refresh of the page and stop this form to submit, we are actually using this register form, which is nothing but this form basically. So we are catching hold of this form ID, and we are saying that once this form is submitted, stop its natural behavior. Okay, so event.prevent default, and then call this function. So as soon as the user enters all this value, go ahead and call this function, which will be getting the values of what user has entered over here, and then it's going to communicate with the AJAX file, and then it's going to send all the data that it's received, which is basically these values, all of it, and the action and this hook and everything. It will send it to the PHP file. Okay, so let's do that and then see how it works. And so what you need to do is yeah, so alright, so we'll click on network and we'll register, and see, this is how when you click on network you'll be able to see what's happening with the AJAX. Generally, if you click on response, it will tell you whether it's true or not, and generally if you click on preview, it will tell you what is happening over here. Okay, so just 1 second, hold on. Alright, sorry. Okay, cool. So as you can see over here that AJAX request is complete, it's saying okay, and you can see that all of this data has been sent. The form data, everything that we have mentioned in this JavaScript file, which is action, my hook, username fun, yeah, user email, user fun, everything has been passed over here, right? So all of this data has been sent to our PHP file. So if we just go ahead and for now just comment this line and just print our post $_post and see what value we get inside that. So let's register a new one. So just type sun instead of fun. Okay, so let's register it. So there's another. Oh, cool. So this AJAX is complete. Yeah, we've got all of that. And let's click on preview. Now, as you can clearly see that we try to echo the $_post array in our AJAX functions.php, and we are able to get all of this value which has been sent by AJAX, right? In this data field, whatever value you've sent, which is action, username, email, password, everything has been sent from JavaScript AJAX to our PHP file, and that's what we can see when we click over here in our preview. Okay, now as we all know that when we use AJAX, the JavaScript file and the PHP files are communicating in the background without the page being reloaded, right? Without the page being refreshed, these two files are communicating between each other. All of this while I've explained to you how JavaScript is sending all the data to PHP file, but even PHP file is sending some response to JavaScript, and that's when it's a two-way communication. It's not just JavaScript is send all the data to PHP and all the work is done. No, they are communicating between each other. Okay, so and I'm going to show that to you how, right? So you see this function right over here, yeah, WP send JSON success. This is the function which is sending some response to our JavaScript file saying whether it's been successful or it's not been successful. So if you come over here and we check this part, it says success true and data hello world hello. So this data from a PHP file has been sent to our AJAX response, which is right here, done. And that's what we're saying, right? Correct. So let's click on response. Okay, that's what we're doing. So response is success, and that's what we're doing. You click on console and it says done. Okay, so they are communicating between each other. If there would have been some error, then definitely we would get some error into our response field, but it's saying success, and this data that we had defined in this function has been sent, hello world, hello, back to the JSON, back to the AJAX as a response using this function. So that's the job of these two functions. The job of this function is to let us know whether it's been successful or not. So we'll get whatever response we are passing over here. We'll get that if it's successful. If it's not, then we'll get the error using this function. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. And since now we've got all the data into our array, we know what we can do with this data into our PHP file. The AJAX has done a very good job in sending all the data into our PHP file, and since now we have that data, there is a function in WordPress which is called WP create user. The job of this function is to go ahead and send all the data, which is the username, password, and email, to our database. Okay, so if we go ahead and check into our database, okay, let me just log in. See, the fun, whatever data we had gone and registered, we've got it all over here. So all we have to do is we pass three parameters. One is your username, password, and email, and it will go ahead and insert the data. And then if we try to go ahead and log in, after logging out, what was the username? Daf. Okay. I know it sounds silly, but that's okay. It's for demonstration purposes. There you go. You're logged in to WordPress. Great. Which means AJAX has made our job so easier that it has gone ahead and registered the user, not registered actually, but given the data of the PHP file, and it is registered. Just to recap everything that we have discussed overall, what we're doing, to sum it up, is we are going ahead and creating three files. First is your login form, okay, and we have included these inputs in this form. Then we are creating the JavaScript file. We are getting hold of these inputs. Yeah, we're getting hold of these inputs from our login form.php using JavaScript, and we're sending this data via AJAX, even passing this URL, and all of this data we are sending into PHP file. PHP file is getting all of that data into $_post. Yep. And we are using that data, we are sending it in this function, which is WP create user, to pass it to our database, and that's how our user is created. Okay. And everything that happens in the bargaining in the process, I've already explained that, so just don't want to go through it all over again. Alright, if you have any questions, you can leave in the comments. I hope it was quite informative. Alright, thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you've understood everything.